You know, well, 1 month in, well, actually 32 days in, or 33 days if you count it, into 2017. Now, normally, if I had the opportunity, I would have, at an earlier time, looked back at the Sonic the Hedgehog comic book in 2016. But I never got the chance, and if I did, well, you can consider this an updated version. But let's take a look at Sonic in 2016. This was the year primarily known for a lot of us as the year where the long, very long, Shattered World Crisis Sonic Unleashed story arc came to an end. Coming to an end around September and October of this year. Last year, I mean. And thank goodness. I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't a good story overall. Heck, I made a new fan vid using a song that I use quite often when it comes to the conclusion of big events. The fan vid and the song that I used for said fan vid was The Touch by Stan Bush. And of course, if you're a fan of Transformers, you know exactly where that came from. And I've used that song various times for Sonic vids. I used it for Sat AM, Sonic Sat AM, and did a music video based on the Doomsday Project saga, basically the final 4 episodes of Sonic Sat AM. I did the Touch I used the Touch song after the Iron Dominion arc, after the 175 to 177 arc. I used it very many times. Several times, I should say, but I've used it several times to its best momentum. And it's always because I want to capture the end of an arc that I felt it needs it, or is worthy of it. And this one did that. Shattered World Crisis and Sonic Unleashed did that. But, like I said before, it could have not had to go so long. I look at the fact that it could have at least ended 6 or 8 issues in. Because you don't have to expand it so long. But when one looks at it, many of us could kind of see why they did it. They did it mainly because they wanted to get the characters established, or re-established in the new world and new continuity. They wanted the newer readers to kind of get to know who they were. They wanted the older readers to kind of see what the new setting was going to be. And they wanted the older readers to get reacquainted with said established characters, but also in a way get reestablished with some new personality quirks that they were given. If you notice, they had some new personality traits added to them. You have to look kind of like at certain moments throughout the comic to understand that. I'll give you an example. One of the story arcs that they did was in the spin-off comic Sonic Universe. And it's a story arc that I actually didn't subscribe to, but I bought the issues for, and that was Spark of Life, which was Nicole's origin story. Well, sort of her origin story. And we find out there that Sally, well, she's not that much of a good cook. And I think it's even acknowledged in several issues of the main comic. But during one of the issues, we see Chip reminiscing of all the moments he's had with the Freedom Fighters, and one of the moments has him playing music with Bunny. Yeah, Bunny's playing a guitar, an acoustic guitar, and it looks like she sings. So maybe they're going to do something with Bunny in the future. Well, it shows that she's a bit of a country singer as well. But when you look back at 2016, it was a good year. I'd have to say it was a good year for the comic. I'm not trying to deny it wasn't a bad year. It had a good run. There was no doubt about it. It's just that I think as soon as Worlds Collide and Worlds Unite ended, one of the main problems people had with the comic at the end of that, which was in 2015 and throughout last year, was the 2-story format. Basically, you had a main story, you had a main event story, and you had a secondary story. The main event story always involved Sonic and anybody associated with him on that adventure. The second story involved either a character like Tails or Amy Rose teamed up with someone like Bunny Rabbit or Rhoda or Sally Acorn or Rhoda or Antoine. Usually it was a SatAM character, if you will, a redesigned SatAM character, teamed up with an established game character for the secondary story. And that's another thing that got on a lot of people's nerves with this comic this past year, is the fact that even though I'm sure a lot of people enjoyed the secondary stories because it gave more expansion, more life to the characters, what they didn't like was the fact that you always had to have an established game character along with them. And to a lot of fans, that was probably like a little bit overkill, if you will, because it's like, okay, we know Sega wants their game characters focused, but couldn't you just dedicate one backup story to just the SatAM character starring in it? I'm just saying. We're just saying. But I'm not saying they didn't do that either last year. In fact, last year, they did do that for a couple of issues. It was Bunny and Sally in a backup story where they first encountered Clove and Cassidy. And we find out a little bit more backstory on Clove and Cassidy and why they're aligned with Eggman. Basically, we find out that Eggman lied to them about trying to find a cure or something for I think one of the sisters, I don't know if it's Clove or Cassidy, I think it's Cassidy, who is basically robotic. She's kind of cybernetic. And it's supposed to be only like a temporary deal to, I guess, they find something else to help her out. But anyway, to me, it kind of started the development of something they need to follow through on the comic if they ever do. But it gave more character development. Now, when you look at, speaking of Eggman and speaking of Cassie and Clove, we also got a little bit of an Eggman story arc once again. We got an Eggman story arc basically with a little bit more background. Now, ever since 252, we've always wondered exactly what happened to Naugus. Well, we find out that Naugus has a sister. His sister is Wendy the Witch from the Tails Sky Patrol adventure. And basically, this story arc called Eggman's Dozen is him facing both Naugus and Wendy for control, to regain control of Eggman Land. Because basically, trying to be similar to the SatAM background and the original comic background and origin, Naugus once was basically Eggman was partners or an apprentice to Naugus before he stabbed Naugus in the back. Now, Eggman's Dozen was okay, from what people have said. And Spark of Life, to me, I thought was good. I thought Spark of Life was alright. I know some people kind of shit on it a little bit, excuse my language. Lord, forgive me for saying that. But I know a lot of people didn't, kind of crapped on it, I should say. Because basically it's like what was the point of it? And we find out, basically the point of it was, in this universe, we find out that the reason Nicole was created was because of a former advisor, a former scientist and friend to King Acorn, who we find out his real name is Nigel Acorn, which is, I guess, pretty neat. We find out that LED left, or LED tried to use the technology he had to save his dying daughter, Nikki. And one of the best chances he had was to try to save Nikki's personality, her mind, kind of digitize it into the digital world. So at least even if her body goes, her mind, her personality would still be, alive in a digital format. Unfortunately, we find out that that wasn't the case, and what little remained of Nikki slowly became who we would get to know as Nicole. Now, they did in Spark of Life kind of call back in their own way, with their own take, to the short story called Stargazing, which is basically Nicole's first appearance in her Lynx form. And they call back to this here from a different angle. They call back to it in a similar but different kind of way, which I thought was a good take on it. Now, Spark of Life to me kind of opened the door for speculation for future stories. The reason I say it opened the door for speculation to future stories is because Spark of Life introduced another antagonist character, basically another egg boss on the digital side of things called Phage. And Phage basically is sort of the antagonist for Nicole. It's like her rival. But something tells me, just by what we saw in the issues of Spark of Life, something tells me that Phage might just be what was left over of Nikki. Like, part of Nikki's personality and mind is there, but obviously Eggman must have saw that, and he corrupted what was left and created Phage. So there you go. So there you go. To me, they basically gave us a hint through that, because Phage had pictures on file in her digital realm of Nikki. So I'm believing that Phage is what's left of Nikki, and if they follow through on that in the future, Nikki's going to come back, but Phage is going to remember who she really is, and Nikki's going to come back in some way. That's what I feel they're leading towards. Now, when it comes though to Shattered World Crisis and Sonic Unleashed in the main comic, I know a lot of people were kind of, like I said, getting the way I look at it was the way I look at it for the Sonic comic in 2016 is people were kind of getting dragged down. It's like they were getting bored, they were getting impatient. It's like almost every other month they would keep asking the one question of, when is this thing going to be over? When is it going to end? How is it going to end? Why is it taking so long? And when you also look at the fact that last year there was a delay, just like right now, that didn't help either. The only difference between said delays is there was a printing problem, and the printer, I guess, had to be repaired. And of course, they were moving from one building to another. They were basically moving the offices from one building to another, and that kind of caused the delay as well. Unlike this year, where basically they were given a cease and desist order until the contract with Sega, mostly Sega of Japan, could be renewed. So, yeah, 2016 didn't start out so well for the comic, because even myself, being a long-time subscriber, kept wondering where the heck are the issues? What's going on? Why is it taking so long? So, yeah, it didn't start out so well, but it really didn't help the original plans for the story arc, for the stories, or for the issues. See, originally they were planning to end Shadow World Crisis towards the end of the summer. Basically, August, September was supposed to be the end of Shadow World Crisis, but instead it ended around September, October. Yeah, basically from what I can understand, about August, September, or July, August, around that time frame, between July and September, was supposed to be the end of Shadow World Crisis, but because of the delay, it ended around September, October. So yeah, by about a month or so later is when it ended. Although a lot of people, and that didn't really help out, because the original plan for Sega, for Archie Comics, was for Shadow World Crisis to end that year, or end in the summer of last year, and then they were going to take the final 4 months, the final couple of months of 2016, and they were going to dedicate that to Genesis of a Hero, the current story arc they got going right now for the 25th anniversary of the Sonic franchise as a whole. Unfortunately, the printing problems and all that delayed it. And now again, you got another delay, but this is more contract related, that had to be renewed, that's causing a delay again. Now, like I said, I have Now, like I said, I look at the comics as a whole, and I really don't have a problem with either of them. I mean, I did enjoy some of the backup stories. I like the interaction between different characters. You know, I mean, the one story in one story you have Sally meeting with Honey for the first time and striking a deal, to get Honey's reservation, because one lady didn't make reservations at said restaurant that Honey was at. So you kind of get the idea, right? I mean, there were funny moments. I'm not denying that. And again, I like the team-ups here. I really did like the team-ups. You had Sally with Rhoda, which was one of the exceptions of a backup story without a game character. So yes, there were some stories without game characters, and there were some. Correcting myself from earlier, there were some of the backup stories with just the SatAM characters, and there were some with game characters to kind of keep that game element. I did like in fact, one of the backup stories I liked was with Tails and Bunny. And you kind of get more of an acknowledgement that it's not, unlike Sonic SatAM, it's not like an aunt-nephew kind of deal. It's more of a brother-sister kind of deal. It's like a little brother, big sister deal. So I do like some changes that they did there, because they're like a family. They are like a family. So Tails, he doesn't just look at Bunny and Sally as aunts per se now. He looks at them as his big sisters. So I did like that change. I did like that dynamic. I will say that. So it was nice, in a way, last year to kind of have the backup stories give a little bit more explanation as to the relationship between the characters. Yes, it's similar to what you saw in SatAM, but it was more expanded on in a way that shows you that they're kind of like a family. And I like the fact that they gave Tails and Bunny a bit of an origin of how they of how they became that kind of brother-sister dynamic. I like that. I did like that origin. Overall, though, 2016 didn't start out so well for the comic because of the printing problem, which caused delays. And yes, some of the backup stories, and sure, the side stories really didn't need to be there. They could have made them main stories or something like that. But overall, when I look at 2016, with the exception of the delay at the beginning of the year, I have to say the comic did redeem itself. And yes, the highlight for a lot of people was the fact that Shattered World Crisis Sonic Unleashed adaptation had finally come to an end. It finally did. And the way they built up to it, I thought was great. I like the fact that just for those issues alone, they didn't rely on the backup stories anymore. They just went full throttle on it. I liked it. And I liked the fact that they even let Eggman stay a step ahead. I mean, I think it was at the end of 2015 and into this year, they did a backup story where Eggman had the Tails doll, hide on Sky Patrol and spy on them. So I liked all that. And I liked how the heroes were set up to realize, hey, we can't celebrate just yet because we still got a lot more to do. They made them look vulnerable to the point that they had to get back off their feet, in the final 4 issues. And the final 4 issues, I will say, were pretty good. I liked it. I really did. I like the fact that the Freedom Fighters look like badasses in this. They did. They looked like complete badasses during the final battles. I like the fact that one panel in one of the issues, Panic in the Sky, which was the finale, I like how you see a huge difference between Bunny in an E100 robot, an ETA or E100, an E robot or whatever, compared to the last time she encountered it. Because the last time they got ambushed. We know that. They didn't stand a chance. This time, however, you see a panel with her just cocking back her cybernetic arm and telling Sally, I got this, and then bam, just punching the heck out of that E-robot, punching right through it. Heck, even Matt, Mega Beatman, when he did a review of this, he was like, I like Mega Beatman's review of that part. He was like, Bunny, where were you the last time this happened? Jesus. Excuse my wording there, Lord. But yeah, that was like, whoa, where did this come from? I liked it. I really, really did. And actually, overall, I did enjoy the comic. I really, really got a kick out of it. Heck, I'll even say when they did the Knuckles and Amy Rose Sonic Unleashed Shattered story arc, I thought that was good too. I like the fact that they incorporated Team Dark into it, Rouge, Shadow, and Omega. I like that. I liked how that kind of basically put a conclusion to the whole Naugus situation, which was a continuation from the Sonic Universe arc, Eggman's Dozen. I like that kind of put the lid temporarily for now on the Naugus situation, where now he's imprisoned by Gunn, by Station Square. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the dynamic there. I really did. So overall, I have to say that 2016, yes, it didn't start out so well for the comic because of the delay with the printing problem and them moving from different buildings, moving the offices to different buildings. Yes, that didn't help. But overall, I have to say they did redeem themselves in the end. And hopefully, once they get this whole situation worked out, because it looks like they've done that with the contract renewal and everything, that once things get back to normal by at least the end of March and into April, we will have a good year in 2017. Because it looks like, from what I said in a previous audio video, if things work out the way I think they will, they're either going to end 2017 with issue 300, or they're going to begin 2018 with issue 300. So overall, I have to say I like the comic. I like the issues. I really appreciated what they did for the comic this year, and can't wait. I mean, last year, like I said, they had an okay year. Wasn't the best overall, but it was an all right year. Again, the Shadow World Crisis finally ended. Shadow World Crisis arc ended. And some of the side stories that they gave us was neat. I like the team-ups. So overall, it was good. Overall, it was a decent year. And hopefully 2017, once things get back to normal in a few months, will be an even better year. So let me know what you guys think, though, down below. Comment if you like. What did you think about the Sonic comics in 2016? Do you think they had a good year last year? And do you think they can improve this year once things are worked out? Let me know down below, and I'll talk to y'all later.